As we headed out west, we were curious about how our next change maker was going to illuminate us on our penultimate stop of our Drive the Change tour. We followed our next inspiring thought leader on his bike through the historic streets of Oxford, carrying what looked like fishing gear before finally pulling up to meet our next change maker, AID. Founding Green TV and World EV Day, AID has been building out the idea structure for change, long before its importance became common knowledge. His passion and life experiences combine in a unique way to support his creative mind. I'm excited to get the perspective of someone who's been leaning into the climate crisis for so long and find out what he thinks about the progress we are making and whether he's hopeful for the future. What has been your personal experience as things have changed in the last 20 years?
The shift has been profound. Up till around 15 or so years ago, major broadcast outlets would talk about climate change, but then talk about the criticisms of climate change as though it wasn't a scientific reality. So to talk about climate change and these major and fundamental sustainability issues up until relatively recently was still seen as a pretty maverick endeavour. I mean, when we started Green TV Media, the idea of having much work in the sustainability sector was pretty tricky. There weren't many organisations you could engage with. To me, so when people ask me what I did, I used to say slightly sarcastically that I'm an itinerant purveyor of filleted fish, and that was a conversation that people were much happier to have with me.
I'd like to see that on a business card.
Yeah, so I actively used to shy away from talking about climate change because you knew people would go to the other side of the room. Now I can talk about electric cars and renewable energy, offshore wind farms, and people are genuinely interested and excited about that. But yeah, it's been a pretty fundamental change. So, you know, consumers, businesses, the media are really stepping up to the plate in terms of deeply engaging with these issues.
What have you brought into your life, practice, lifestyle recently that also reflects your concerns about what's going on?
I've always been pretty aligned to a sustainability narrative in my own life. I cycle, have a largely plant-based diet. The thing that I do in answer to your question is really ramp up my professional engagement around sustainability by working as hard and as fast as I can on campaigns and major channels around this idea of building out the ideas infrastructure. So that's really where I'm pushing as hard as I can.
Do you think that the pace of awareness is matching the kind of challenge that you feel we're facing?
You know, the dynamism around COP26, the impetus for change amongst captains of industry, senior political leaders, it does lead me to be very optimistic. That rate of change, that level of deep engagement and interest is very powerful, and I believe will do a lot to help decarbonise at the rate of change we need to see.
If you were to paint a picture of what transport looks like in 5 years' time, if it unfolds in the best possible way for humanity, what is it looking like?
There's a whole new sector of electric vehicles that are coming onto the market, which are, you know, both better forms of technology and certainly better for the planet. So that's a really exciting new area that's unfolding. When I first installed a smart charger at my house, looking at my car in the driveway, I was suddenly a part of a disaggregated battery storage system that is able to dynamically take renewable energy from the grid. So all of a sudden my car as a static object, I perceived it as being a more useful device than as a mode of transport. And that's part of a new smart economy, a new smart way of living that is really, really exciting. I think we'll see more active travel, more cycling and walking. I think the transition to electric vehicles will be more dynamic and rapid than most people understand it to be. We'll very, very quickly see a shift to an e-mobility meets renewable energy ecosystem that will be a very dramatic one. Consumers have a very passionate relationship with their cars, and if those cars are a vector for decarbonisation and sustainability, then that goes deep into the psyche of the consumer, which perhaps has a wider benefit around sustainability.
I can feel a real high level of positive energy.
A really positive new phase of humanity where we're entering essentially a smart phase of humanity which understands what we're doing, understands the external costs to what we have previously done, which is all about some really dynamic new ways of living. So there's some really, really exciting fundamental seismic shifts. You can build an entire company around a digital solution in a matter of time that we couldn't conceive of. And I think companies understand that now and are really happy to take on board the ideas of young people who are obviously keenly aware of the challenges of climate change and sustainability. They can see that, they can feel that, and they know that they need to drive that change. So I see that happening at even some of the more traditional companies. You know, it's a really exciting time for young people to be able to deploy ideas that they come up with at pace and at scale that answer some of the biggest questions of our age.